starts now with the First Alert Weather Day.
Hey there, and happy Tuesday morning. It is just after 11 o'clock. Thanks for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. I'm First Alert meteorologist Isaac Williams, and just want to spend a few minutes recapping again what happened over the weekend, and then look ahead to more cold coming. It was crazy cold this morning, and we have got even more intense cold on the way. We are climbing out of a First Alert Weather Day for cold this morning, and then we have another one on the horizon for Saturday. But this morning, again, I just want to spend a few minutes with you recapping the freezing rain totals from the weekend. So Lake Lanier got 0.8 inches of sleet. Freezing rain totals, Clayton up in Rabun County was the winner in the northeasternmost county of the state, 0.75 inches of freezing rain there. In Toccoa, that's in Stevens County, and then Suches in North Georgia getting 0.6 inches of freezing rain, 0.5 in Cleveland, 0.45 in Jefferson. Milton and north portions of Fulton County getting almost a half an inch of ice, 0.4 in Dahlonega, 0.3 in Athens, 0.27 in Conyers. So that was one of the southernmost spots getting, noticeable ice. And then other areas getting a quarter of an inch, Lawrenceville, Canton, Dunwoody, Tucker, and Whitehall. So obviously, Metro Atlanta got ice in the morning of Sunday, and we mostly escaped the second round and the heavier round. Thankfully, we had very nasty, heavy rain. And then yesterday was super windy. The winds at the airport were up to 47 miles per hour. And then this morning, the minimum wind chill in Atlanta was -2. So we can officially say Atlanta experienced sub-zero wind chills this morning. So that is just goes to show that this cold is intense, and it's not going anywhere. In fact, as we look at the temperature outlook through this coming weekend and into next week, it is a near certainty that we will have below average temperatures in the southeast as well as across Florida. I actually just recorded something that's going to air to this evening on First Alert Weather Extra, talking about record lows in Florida being beaten for Sunday. And we have near record temperatures here in North Georgia and Atlanta coming up this weekend, too. We're talking about some very brutal temperatures coming up. But this major cold blast is going to affect a lot of people in the southeast as we move into this coming weekend. In fact, the freeze forecast here, again, as we look ahead across Metro Atlanta, Friday is the only day where instead of very high, it's just a high chance of freezing temperatures in the morning. But you can see just about from now until next Wednesday, February 4th, we have a near certainty of freezing temperatures in the morning. And at least one of those days, Saturday, I'm forecasting us to not even get above freezing in the afternoon. So this cold is going to be arguably more intense than we were seeing this morning, where the low was 14 in Atlanta so far down at the airport. So this is wind chill for Saturday morning, and this is just one model, but I think it's doing a good job of handling this cold. It's got the wind chill of -3 in Atlanta, -4 in Marietta, -12 in Blairsville. Even in the mountains, it is pretty rare to get double-digit negatives for wind chill up there. So that's what we're looking at for Blairsville, -12 degrees for Saturday morning's wind chill. And then through the day, notice at noon, the wind chill in Atlanta is only 1 degree above zero. And then into the afternoon, we do see some double digits, but Saturday is just going to be a day where it's not going to, I don't think, be precipitating much, if any, but being outside is probably not a good idea, just because this is the type of cold that lasts all day, of course, and if you have to spend any amount of time outside, it's going to be very dangerous. And even into Sunday morning, we have wind chills once again hovering around that zero mark. So this weekend is going to be very cold as we change months from January into February. Also, there's been chatter in the weather world about another winter weather system this weekend. The latest models here still bring an area of low pressure near the Gulf Coast, and most of the moisture is east of us in North Georgia. This is the European model. I'm going to show you the American model in a second, but the European model is showing a few snow showers in East Georgia. We're looking at you in Athens and points east into the Carolinas. Usually in this setup, the cold, heavy, cold, drier air usually wins and does not bring us any precipitation. But if that low tracks a little farther west and brings moisture closer to us as the colder air gets here, then our snow chance would increase. But right now, most model solutions are carrying this farther offshore. And once it's in that position, it's going to shoot up the East Coast. And again, the East Coast of North Carolina and Virginia and the Delmarva Peninsula could be in store for quite a significant snowstorm if it stays on this current track. Now, the American model is a little bit closer with the moisture, and you can see here it does bring snow showers as far west as kind of the east wall of the perimeter in Atlanta and a little bit heavier snow in East Georgia. For now, we are discounting this solution in that it is not the most likely outcome, but I'm just showing you this, that we see it, we're aware of it, we know what it's showing, but just with our experience and with how models have handled things so far this winter season, it is unlikely that this scenario plays out. But again, we're still in the trend phase, so we're watching the pattern, we're watching trends in the models, and if we start to see growing confidence in something happening on this weekend, we will of course let you know. But notice 7 a.m. Sunday morning, snow from the Carolina coast up into the mid-Atlantic. So one way or another, I think there is going to be a disruptive snowstorm on the East Coast. How much of Georgia, if any, is impacted, it is still way too early to tell. So that's something that the First Alert Weather Team will, of course, keep you apprised of as we move through the rest of the week, which, by the way, has highs in the 40s. I'm really excited. We get into the middle 40s for like 3 days in a row after today. The problem, though, the rest of the week, we are going to see some clouds build in, but not forecasting any rain, no snow, no precipitation through Friday. Saturday is a First Alert Weather Day, not for those snow showers, at least yet. It is for the dangerous cold. I went over those wind chills, but notice the high temperature, it is only 28. So the record coldest high temperature that day is 23. So I don't think we'll be breaking the coldest minimum temperature just yet, but that just goes to show we're in the same realm, we're in the same zip code of record territory here. So it just is going to be a day where you're going to want to stay indoors. And even Sunday, again, back to sunshine. So whatever happens Saturday will be out Sunday, and we're only seeing highs barely above freezing. So this weekend is going to be very cold. This past weekend was, of course, leading up to the ice storm. We actually had a high Saturday, I think, of 47 a couple of days ago. So this is going to be noticeably colder than even the weekend leading up to the ice storm. And then next week, Monday, only seeing a high temperature of 40. So the only impactful weather coming up here is more dangerous cold coming up for the weekend, and that's something that we're going to continue to keep you posted on right here on Atlanta News First Plus, and of course inside the First Alert Weather app. I'm about to go publish another video on that potential winter system, and you'll be getting the latest on that, not just from me, but the entire weather team throughout the rest of the week. Maria Moreau is here, and we're going to talk more about Maria, the impacts. Words are hard. 66 and a half hours, the entire team still kind of getting back to normal this morning. But yes, the lasting impacts of this weekend's ice storm across North Georgia.
Yeah, Isaac, I will say I'm liking what I'm seeing on the 7-day forecast. I'm not looking to
minus
experience...
Saturday.
Right, minus Saturday. Not looking to experience another ice storm.
Yes.
But still some areas of focus at First Alert Weather Day. Very important
For
information.
sure.
So thank you so much. And yeah, guys, we were on air with you for 66 and a half hours. Just telling you everything you needed to know about this ice storm, about what was going on here in our North Georgia communities, and we're going to get into all of that. Actually, as you join me here, I'm going to reset. We switched places between Isaac and I and the rest of the team here at Atlanta News First, so let me fix my settings here and we'll get going. But it really started with us going on air at 5 in the morning on Saturday, and we stayed with you through Monday. We're continuing to bring you coverage today, as there are still communities that are moving forward, making adjustments, still responding to some of what we saw over the weekend, especially in the far North Georgia area. So we're going to talk about that. I want to start by showing you some pictures here of some of what we saw. This is not live, so let me drop that graphic real quick. There we go. Some pictures and video from over the weekend that we saw. Again, communities north of Atlanta still dealing with some of those impacts, and the cold is making it harder to recover. So this morning, thousands of people across Georgia still dealing with the lingering effects of this weekend's ice storm. And of course, part of our coverage, part of staying on with you through the weekend, and I want to show you some of that on-air coverage. If you missed us on air. We were online on Atlanta News First Plus. If you weren't watching us, hopefully you had the Atlanta News First news app, you had the First Alert weather app, and you were getting regular notifications, live weather updates for us. And again, we were sharing your photos, taking you out to the various parts of the communities that were being affected. We had our entire Atlanta News First team in the community with you, again, monitoring the situation. So all the reason why we do our job during severe weather events like this is to make sure that we're keeping you informed. So this is our chance to look back with you through this weekend. We are going to start by taking a look at some of the viewer photos that you sent in. Again, this was a big help thanks to the folks in the far North Georgia communities in the paths of this ice storm that sent in their photos that were saying, hey, this is what I'm experiencing, and we were able to relay that information. I personally fielded through the hundreds of photos that you guys were sending in, and we were sharing those on air and online. So I really appreciate each and every one of you. Take a look at that. Those were icicles, and these seem to have formed everywhere. They were on plants, they were on bicycles. The ground was covered in thin layers of ice, and you could see a good amount of salt from the brine trucks. Again, those icicles. This was actually up in Blue Ridge, looking like a winter wonderland. Again, viewer photos submitted from you. This is a look at some of the damage that we saw. A family experiencing a house that fell through their living room. There were trees. Did I say house? A tree that fell through their living room. Trees down were a major concern, a major problem. There was also flooding on certain roadways and other issues. Thankfully, from what we heard from officials, it sounded like most people heeded the warnings of staying off the road and staying inside, but again, not without some impacts. Power outages, again, fallen trees, other things like that really dominated Sunday going into Monday, and still we are seeing some of the effects continuing today. And just on a more positive note, I want to share some of these cute photos that we received from viewers like you as well. You know, some enjoying the snow, stepping outside safely, and kind of just taking it in, this rare moment that we get in the South where we do get a little bit of that winter wonderland. And of course, the viewers staying inside warm and tuning into our coverage. So we always appreciate that. But talking about today, and really the focus, as Isaac mentioned, is those frigid temperatures, keeping roads like those in far North Georgia pretty slick. The problem right now, refreezing from overnight, creating some hazardous spots. This is video again from far North Georgia. Right now, officials in Hall County say that they've been plowing and salting really since Saturday. Primary roads now clear and passable, but those secondary roads, the back roads in the subdivision areas, they're still seeing slush, and shaded areas where snow isn't melting or drying remains a concern. So right now, as we share some of the video that we've captured from officials, again, just taking you back here, from some of what we saw over the weekend. Right now, they're saying they're still addressing either roads or power outages. That's really the focus right now. In Jackson County, officials say that conditions are changing quickly. The temperatures keep fluctuating. They are asking drivers to avoid being on the road if at all possible as we go through this week and as the temperatures remain really a concern. They're just looking for those road conditions to improve, and they're monitoring the situation closely. All right. We're going to take a short break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about some of what school districts are experiencing and give you a look around what our team coverage looked like going into Sunday and Monday from various Metro Atlanta and North Georgia communities. We'll be right back.
Atlanta News First Plus starts now with a First Alert Weather Day.
And thank you for joining us back here at the First Alert Desk on Atlanta News First Plus. Again, as we continue to look back at this past weekend's severe weather coverage and the ice storm that we were following with you all weekend long from 5 in the morning on Saturday through Monday. We were on air for 66 and a half hours, giving you everything you needed to know between First Alert forecasts and getting you live into the communities dealing with fallen trees, power outages, and some of the impacts of this storm. We really worked hard to make sure that you were at home safe and you could follow along with everything that we were seeing. And so we're taking a look back now as we continue to monitor frigid temperatures. First Alert meteorologist Isaac Williams taking a look at still what's ahead for us this upcoming weekend. But right now, many communities who had experienced the brunt of all of this, far north Georgia especially, still dealing with some modifications, asking drivers to stay off the roads in those like back areas that aren't quite, that are still quite dealing with the refreezing issue and the thin layer of ice that remains a concern. And several school districts as well in certain areas, again, like Banks, Clark, Habersham County, all northeast in our state. Those felt the brunt of this weekend's storm, and they have decided to modify their hours either through a delay or just keeping schools closed for another day. We have a full link for you on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com, where you could see the school impacts as we continue to really come out of this storm and schools, communities, counties resuming normal operations. The weather also disrupting things at the world's busiest airport. Thousands of flights were delayed or canceled. Our very own Atlanta News First Yasmina Alston was there on Sunday talking with some of the stranded passengers. Take a listen.
Better at Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport when it comes to cancellations, especially compared to what we saw yesterday. But there are still hundreds of flights that are delayed as airlines work to catch up from what we experienced over the weekend. Today, over 500 delays at ATL and 277 cancellations. So a lot of those delays are from the over 1,000 cancellations we saw on Sunday. We've heard from travelers who found out about delays today, just a few hours before their scheduled flight, which of course is very frustrating, but others say they got a heads up so they could rebook for today.
I had reached out to my boss and was like, I'm going to need to work remote tomorrow because there's no way I'm going to get back into Atlanta. And I called Delta and they're like, nope, we already did all of our cancellations. We're good.
And there was no delay?
No delay.
Smooth flight?
Smooth flight. It was a little bumpy, a little turbulence, but nothing we couldn't get through.
And even though things are looking better at the airport here today, it is still a good idea to check with your airline to see if your flight is impacted or is going to be impacted. At Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, Yasmina Alston, Atlanta News First.
Yep, and again, today is looking even better. It started to improve day by day as we got closer and closer or out of this storm. Right now, we are looking at normal recovering operations at Atlanta. Still a few impacted flights and some delays, but most flights are picking back up. Right now, we're not seeing any major issues at Hartsfield-Jackson, but we are going to keep an eye out and let you know if anything changes. The system also caused major issues outside of Georgia. I want to take you through some video. This is out in Tennessee. That really, our hearts go out to the community there that saw among the worst of this when it comes to power outages. Around 177,000 are still without power as temperatures continue to sit in the teens and single digits. And then with downed trees blamed for about a third of those outages, efforts to clear those continue into today. Davidson County especially and Nashville reporting the most significant impacts. I also want to show you here taking a look at Mississippi as well, some of the footage that we're getting there. Again, many of parts of the southeast also kind of dealing with those recovery efforts north of us and really around us as we all continue to move out of this storm. Outages in Mississippi, especially along the border and near the Shreveport area, especially hit the hardest. So just want to show you some of the video and footage that we received from those areas, from our sister stations that are continuing to report for those communities. Our Atlanta News First Plus coverage continues as we look at some of the impacts both here in Georgia and around the South of Ice Storm Fern, getting out of that system, but frigid temperatures remain here in the North Georgia area. We're going to take another quick commercial break, and when we come out of it, we're going to be talking with Atlanta News First reporter Niamani Watson, who will be really shedding light on this weekend's impacts and what we're looking at going into this week. And welcome back here to Atlanta News First Plus as we continue to look back at this past weekend's ice storm and continue to monitor the frigid temperatures still in the week ahead. We want to get you out to Atlanta News First, Niamani Watson, who joins me now here. Niamani, this is an ongoing effort for some emergency management officials to address the communities that are dealing with lingering impacts. We had you on the morning show talking a little bit about that, but what have you been hearing?
So we know that the hardest hit areas from this ice storm were in northeast Georgia, and that's where we saw a lot of those lingering impacts this morning. We checked, there were still more than 3,000 people in northeast Georgia without power this morning. So that's what we mean by some of those lasting impacts, as well as these bitter temperatures may cause some roads to refreeze in that area. And there was also some concern of some roadways still have some black icing.
Yeah, certainly. Especially those shaded back roads remain a top concern. You were part of our coverage. We were on air for 66 and a half hours. Talk to me a little bit about what you saw being out there during the ice storm.
So it was not there during ice this weekend. I was hunkered down, listening to the advice from everyone saying to stay off the roads and indoors this weekend. I will say in the area where I live, which is a DeKalb County, some parts we actually did not see as bad of ice buildup on the roads. Most of the ice didn't stick, especially a Sunday afternoon. So that was the good news. But we know many areas across, especially again, North Georgia, parts of North Georgia saw a lot of ice buildup this weekend.
I know before the storm came, you and I were talking on here, and you were saying you were helping mom and family get ready as best as you can. How did it go for everybody? Were they hunkered down pretty comfortably?
Listen, okay, so we were staying inside. We did not go outdoors. My mom did not go outdoors as well. We went to the grocery store before the storm was supposed to hit, and we stocked up on water and non-perishables, and we had winter storm snacks on hand. So we were fine. We did on Sunday. We did have a couple of flickers with power. But luckily, our power did not go out this weekend.
I'm glad to hear that. That is always good news, and we love the update on Mama Watson, as always. Niamani, I know that you are going to have another report for us coming up at Atlanta News First News at noon, so I'm going to let you get back to that. In the meantime, I do want to take folks through some of the other communities that we were in throughout this ice storm. I mentioned the far north Georgia communities that were really the most impacted, that northeast side, but also around the metro. We're going to take a look back through some of those reports that we brought to you from Monday, just yesterday, as we were watching this ice storm move through. We're going to start things off with Brendan Keefe, who was reporting from the Forsyth line in Metro Atlanta.
A significant amount of both ice from freezing rain and sleet. And the sleet is actually good news, because had that been freezing rain, we would have had a much thicker coat on the trees and the power lines in this first round on the Forsyth-Fulton line where I am now. Take a look from the air and you can see all of the trees have that sort of clear white coating on them. And as you get closer to the power lines, they don't look too stressed. You do see some ice dripping from those power lines, but you don't see them sagging or hanging. That could change as the day goes on, and we do expect the winds to get higher, and that could cause extra trouble. The roadways, passable but barely. We saw only a few cars out on the road, and those that were driving were moving slowly, but seeming to get through without too much problem. The power lines, of course, are the biggest concern, because if the power goes out and the temperature drops, people are going to have a hard time staying warm in their homes. The white you see behind me there is not from freezing rain. That is from sleet that actually accumulated on the ground and then has a coating of freezing rain ice on top of it. Looking at the cars, you can see they have a thick coat of ice. In fact, so thick, it's very hard to break through without first running the car to have the heat help to loosen the ice. Take a look at the difference. Here's before letting the car run with the heat on for a little bit. That is a northern ice scraper that I brought down from Ohio. It is no match for the thick ice on this window glass. Now, after running the car with the heat on, remember outside because we do not want a carbon monoxide threat, you can see it was much easier to get the ice off. The doors are also frozen. It's very hard to get in the car because the door handles are frozen, the door frames are frozen. And if you have frameless window glass, that can also break the side door glass. Looking closer at the trees and the vegetation, you can see we've got somewhere between 1/8 and 1/4 inch of ice. You can also hear the trees sort of banging into each other, almost like pieces of glass. So now we wait for round 2, where I am right now in Alpharetta, just below the Forsyth County line. That is sort of the magical spot. Is it going to be rain? Is it going to be freezing rain? Are we going to get an additional amount of freezing rain that could knock out the power? That's what we're waiting to see, and that's what we're all preparing for. I'm Brendan Keefe, Atlanta News First.
I'm Patrick Quinn in Morningside, where crews there are continuing to arrive to clear a massive tree that fell in this historic neighborhood of Atlanta. Luckily, no injuries, but let's show you some of this video from earlier this afternoon before the sun went down. A massive tree here that fell. Atlanta Fire said it was initially came in as a report of a tree on a car. By the time they got here, they said the individual in the car was able to escape safely, so no serious injuries, but it will be a long night for this Morningside community. Initial ETA at this point for power to be restored is 11 o'clock this evening, but this is a massive tree, and there are a lot of people still without power, so this will be a concerted effort. Neighbors, they're just bracing, hoping that colder temperatures don't bring more trees down.
We're in Duluth, and you can see the freezing rain kind of pelting down on my head. You look up, hits you in the face, it stings a little bit. So we can start to see some of that freezing rain, some of that ice starting to form. Take a look at this branch I actually found on the ground. You can see the icicles that are forming, kind of going straight down because of gravity. I can actually break those off if I wanted to. Let's see, there it is. You can kind of break those off. It's actually really hard to break those off. So if it can do this to a branch, imagine what it can do to the roads. We talked to Gwinnett County EMA yesterday as they were preparing the roads, trying to get salt and brine, especially on things like bridges, in order to keep a lot of this rain from forming into ice on the road. Now those teams are kind of waiting to see where this severe weather is going to hit the hardest, and they're prepared to get to those areas to help Gwinnett County and their residents where they need it the most.
We have our critical facilities, so our fire stations, our police precincts, our warming stations. They have the capability of receiving salt treatment as well, so that there's still access available to them so that we can continue providing those critical services.
So those crews certainly kind of in that wait-and-see mode. They're probably out right about now evaluating where exactly the need is the greatest, where there may be ice and slick spots on the road, where there might be trees that are falling because of the ice that is forming. Those crews are going to be imperative as we move forward and trying to keep this from becoming a critical event for people around the metro area. The best thing you can do is actually stay off of those roads and allow those crews to work uninhibited. From Duluth, Avery Braxton, Atlanta News First.
I'm Justin Berger reporting from Cleveland in White County. Temperatures absolutely frigid here on Monday night. And look, there is still ice left in the trees, but that does not compare to what we saw today. Take a look at this. A tree suspended midair in a power line. There are trees down all over the county. Luckily, crews were able to cut access through those back roads, so power crews and emergency personnel could get by. Luckily, we're told there were only some slip and fall injuries resulting in fractures across the county. No fatalities as a result of this storm. We're reporting from Cleveland in White County. I'm Justin Berger.
Yeah, just a look at some of the reporting that we did over the weekend, again, as we were out in the communities trying to paint a picture for you so that you didn't have to step outside and investigate for yourself and put yourself in harm's way. I just want to share some of the ice totals that we got from the National Weather Service, again, releasing this on Monday. That is the most recent update I have from going off of this graph right here. Gainesville getting an inch of ice, Lake Lanier following shortly after that, close to an inch. Clayton 3/4, Toccoa saw 1/2 inch, as well as Cleveland and Blood Mountain and the Sugar Hill community. So some of those, again, North Georgia areas, far North Georgia areas seeing the most amount of ice. And we talk about an inch, it adds up, especially in weight, as Avery Braxton explained, and that is what leads to trees falling down and coming onto power lines and knocking out power, and then really some of the infrastructure that gets affected in a severe weather event like this, and then the freezing rain as well that we saw contributing to that. I want to take you now around the nation as several states I mentioned earlier experienced the force of Ice Storm Fern. Our Atlanta News First, our national team here reports showing you a look at what the extent of the impact was as this ice storm moved east.
The temperature is not likely to get above freezing, it's more likely that things are going to get worse before they get better.
The storm has passed, but in some areas the trouble is just beginning. Over 250 million people are under cold alerts for frigid temps that will linger for days, raising fears for those without shelter or power.
We want to make sure that everyone, first and foremost, across the state takes care and reaches out to their friends and their family and their neighbors in these challenging times.
In some parts, crews working to restore power must contend with a staggering amount of snow that fell during the storm. The top snowfall total so far is 31 inches in New Mexico, while 12 states recorded half an inch of ice.
We lived here almost 20 years, and this is the worst. I can't remember one this bad.
In hard-hit Tennessee, neighbors are coming together to begin the recovery.
One neighbor comes out and starts looking at tree branches that needs to be taken off the road, and we all just come out. I think we probably had about 10 guys out here.
Travelers, meanwhile, remain stranded as widespread flight disruptions continued into Monday. Sunday was the worst day for flight cancellations since the pandemic.
Just wait in the you guys wait here in the airport because nowhere else to go. We can't get any Ubers. We can't find any hotels. This is the warmest place we've got, and this is the coldest I've ever been.
I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
And again, a lot better today as we're getting out of that ice storm. Things are improving at airports, on the roadways, folks starting to get back to their routine. But still, those frigid temps, we don't want you to underestimate those. So do make sure that you are taking precautions. And that is why we are continuing our coverage here at Atlanta News First and Atlanta News First Plus. We're going to take you out for our Atlanta News First News at noon to Neomani Watson, talking a little bit about what this weekend entailed and what the focus is right now. Hint, roads and power outages. And then we're going to keep things going right here on ANF Plus as we talk to a medical doctor about what to look out for in this winter weather condition, these winter temperatures here in the South that we are not quite used to. When you step outside, how to bundle up and really make sure that you are protecting yourself because the cold can bring some unexpected impacts to your health. We're also going to be continuing to monitor, sorry about that, wrong video. We're going to continue to monitor the temperatures as we get into Saturday, that first alert weather day. You can always watch weather coverage here on Atlanta News First Plus, both live and on demand. And for that, I want to go out to Atlanta News First alert meteorologist Rodney Harris with an explanation on how to tune in and view our coverage.
Meteorologist Rodney Harris. We're always asking you to download the app to stay up to date with our weather. So I want to walk you through some things that may be helpful for you this week as we get closer to this first alert over the upcoming weekend. I want to start by reminding you, you can always access your hourly forecast, your daily forecast, and the radar at the bottom of the screen, also getting back to the home page. But what I really want to focus on today is the video. Every time we send you a push alert with video, it's always going to appear at the top of the weather app. The most recent video is the very first thing you'll see. But don't forget that we do multiple videos throughout the day, and sometimes we do videos that we keep up for multiple days if we want you to always have access to it. So you can scroll to your left to access any video that we've recorded for you for the First Alert Weather app. We usually do more long-form videos to really walk you through what we're expecting for the weekend, so don't forget about that. Also want to make sure that you know that in addition to these videos that we record, you can actually watch our newscast live from inside the First Alert Weather app. Just scroll down past the radar and the hourly forecast, and you'll see a section that says live video. When you click on that section, it'll take you to this page where you can watch our newscast, every single newscast we do live, and that's not only the case throughout the course of the week, but when we have weather events. So for example, if you lose power, which we obviously don't want to happen, you can still access us by watching those newscasts from the First Alert Weather app. We're going to continue to walk you through a lot of the different things you can do in this app throughout the course of the week. And you can also always find your forecast right here in the First Alert Weather app.
And thank you to Rodney for that. Again, he will be joining at Atlanta News First at 1 o'clock here, where you're watching for another First Alert Weather update. And again, what we're looking for as we get closer and closer into this weekend. I can't emphasize enough, this app right here is an amazing tool. It is free. You can add it to your phone, and we will send you push notifications of important changes in the weather when we first alert you. Anything that is happening in your area that you immediately need to know about, you will be notified. So take this time while we're all here together, download the First Alert Weather app, put it on your phone. Those push notifications are going to be key, not only in severe weather events like this, but changes that you might not be looking out for. We will make sure to alert you and bring you that information. Our Atlanta News First coverage, like I mentioned, continues with our news at noon, and then we're back here at 1 p.m. with more conversation about Ice Storm Fern and really the frigid temps that much of the U.S. is experiencing now. Thanks for tuning in and joining me and spending your Tuesday morning here with me. We'll see you on the other half of this afternoon.
Stay up to date on your latest weather from the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast. Download the First Alert Weather app for hour-by-hour forecasts and join us every weekday on ANF+. You can also text weather to the number on your screen, and we'll send a link directly to your cell phone.